What's up, y'all? It is the How back with you. I know it's been a while. Been focusing on self-development. Some life things have happened that I've been dealing with that I'm still dealing with. But I wanted to get back in front of you and talk about something that I feel is very important to our community of artists and entrepreneurs, as well as just, the underserved, non-generational wealth, communities that most of us are part of, especially if you're watching or following me or this channel. And so what I wanted to talk about was something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. People always want to show the great things, the nice cars, the expensive clothes, the stacks of cash, the nice trips, eating out at fancy restaurants and things like that. And people want to talk about balling or, being rich or how well they're doing, etc. When in fact, the truth of the matter is a lot of people are fronting, and a lot of people don't really have what they're showing, or they're showing just small fractions of their life or their financial life and trying to make it look like amazing because you're trying to sell something online, right? And I understand that. That's part of the culture and whatnot, that where we're at right now with social media, but nobody wants to talk about how to get a hold of your finances. And it's really messed up because this is really something that should be taught in school. Like when you're going to school, like all these, math classes, algebra, critical thinking, those are good. There's certain things in school that are good, but most of it is like a waste, most of that stuff can be taught in like a few years. And there's a lot more stuff that should be, focused on real world use applications, learning how to do your taxes, file your taxes, learning how to start a business, learning how to work on a car, learning how to cook, how to, even go shopping, how to deal with traffic tickets, like real world applications. And a lot of us in our communities didn't have the benefit of having financially astute people in our lives, not financially successful, or people, our parents did the best that they could with what they had and what they knew. And this is no knock on them, but, we really have to figure out how to get ourselves out of, the places that we've come from, when a lot of those places are not where we want to be. And so I say that to say, getting a hold of your finances is so important, so that we can take it from getting a hold of your finances, being on top of your finances, and then moving to growing your financial position so that you can live the kind of life that you want, and it's not that it's about money. All money is energy exchange, right? All money is an instrument used to, further our lives, and when it comes to the system, control us, and so if you don't have a lot of it, your options are limited. You're forced to work a job or work for somebody else or hustle all day long. And, it's like it's a never ending rat race. And so part of, the first step, I believe, in getting out of that, never ending rat race is learning financial stability and, consistency and discipline. And so where does that start? Well, it starts with taking stock of where you're at. And how do you take stock of where you're at? You're looking at your financial health. And what is your financial health? It's your debts, your income, and your expenses, right? And so your expenses can be managed no better than what people who are builders use to build houses, roadways, skyscrapers, any type of infrastructure. What do they use to build those? They use blueprints to follow. They don't just go and try to put a house together out of their mind. Some people, some masters, some very creative people can do that, but most people, they need some type of game plan to follow. Just like we use GPS to get from one place to another. We follow the direction from this application that was created to allow us to, get us the most successful and expedited path forward. And that expedited path forward is a budget, right? And so like establishing a budget is critical in getting a hold of your finances. And so, it's not exciting. Maybe it's not, glamorous, but, progress is made through slow and steady and boring processes, sometimes, a lot of times. And so, getting to a place of knowing where you're at and then being consistent with the methodology of how you're executing the way you move financially is crucial to growing your overall position so that you can get out of this constant being on the treadmill of life and never having the opportunity to really figure out how to move forward, getting to investing, starting businesses, like really evolving financially, right? And so you start with establishing a budget. You look through and you itemize everything, all your expenses, your rent or mortgage, your credit card expenses, which, you really want to limit and manage very carefully or not have at all if you're not someone who, for most people, can't manage correctly. Like there's some people that are like, say, don't have credit cards at all because the temptation is too much. And it does create like a psychological type of thing that kind of lets you more easily spend money versus like that pain signal that's sent when you actually are pulling cash out or using your debit card and that money's actually disappearing when you spend it versus spending it on a thing that you can deal with later. There's like that psychology that the big credit card companies count on. That's why it's such a huge business in the world. It's one of the largest businesses in the world, I should say industries, not just business, because there's multiple businesses and multiple companies that offer the same different type of services. And so it's really just looking at your finances, really getting it down to knowing where you're at, establishing that list and really sticking to it. Then you're going to go in and find ways to get your budget to be a lesser overall monthly expense, right? Like you're going to go in there and try to cut out anything that you can, maybe buying the 2-3 Starbucks a day or going out to eat, 5 times a week or whatever it is. You got to look at your budget and see where is there places like that, I can find, some cuts, and, eating at home and making your coffee in the morning versus just buying it on the way, getting up a little bit earlier and preparing. All those things can add up because you can take that money and save it, or even better, you can take that money and invest it so that money can be working for you while you're also working. Because let's face it, with inflation and everything else, we really got to be paying attention to how our money is moving for us. And, it's not exciting a lot of time to talk about money in this way, but when you start seeing how it affects your life and really being honest with yourself, that is exciting for me because I see the potential, right? I see the potential and where we can go and what we can do with this. And so you want to establish that budget. You want to look at your budget and see where you can make cuts. And then you'll have to excuse me. I did make some notes here. Find places to reduce costs. We talked about that already. Oh, one of the huge things that I suggest, and I'm not going to go overly into this because it's like a whole episode in itself, is avoid buying new cars. That's like one of the biggest traps in the world. Like those high, monthly payments that are, nowadays like $500, $600, $700, $1,200 a month. Like those are freaking rental payments, or like very high payments, and all those payments that just keep stacking on top of each other, they limit our maneuverability within our financial health. And so, like I said, I'm not going to go into the car thing too heavily, but I would definitely stay away from buying new cars. Like if you go online and you buy from a private party and you just put your filters in there and find a nice used car that's like, 5 to 10 years old, and buy that car outright with cash and get yourself, grow your finances and get yourself in a position where you can buy a newer car. Still, I never recommend buying a new car unless you just have so much money, like you don't even care. But like everyone knows how much money you lose. A car is not an investment. It's not an asset in the context of, something that's going to grow your wealth. It is an asset in the context of it's something that most of us need to live our lives and get around and work our jobs and all that stuff. But they're constantly breaking down. And, I wouldn't go that route. I would find a 1-2 owner, previous owner used car that has, 50 to 80, 90,000 miles on it. That's under like $7,000, $8,000, depending on where you're at. And they're out there, and you can save that money. And or if you really have to go the payments route, get a loan for one of those, and go to your credit union or your bank and get pre-approved for a loan. Don't go and try and get a loan at the car dealership where they're going to rake you over the coals. Get pre-approved, and that can help you save money in the long run. But the ideal way is to save up money and buy it outright and not have a car payment, because that can really help you. The other thing for your financial health and getting a hold of your finances is paying things on time. Paying things on time, really getting into that habit. And I'm saying this as somebody who didn't before. I used to always do that, but I haven't made a late payment in over 10 years. And so, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that as, someone who has actually gotten on the other side of making bad choices and putting things off and not taking care of certain things. And now I haven't made a payment past due. And personally, in my personal financial, organization at all in over 10 years. It's much more than that, but I don't know the exact date the last time I made a late payment. But so really practice paying things on time and getting that disciplinary part of your life together. Avoid eating out and buying unnecessary things. We talked about that already. That's a big drain on the finances. You can have a line item in your budget, where you give yourself a certain amount of money, but okay, I'm not going to spend more than this. But it really just depends on where your finances are at and where you are in your financial health journey. Another thing to really take it to the next step is look for earning opportunities. Having a job is one thing, but you should also have some type of side business or some type of other business where you can leverage the tax system, right? Because that's a huge factor in, elevating your position. Because one of the things that they don't teach us is they want to crank out employees. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee if that's, how you want to live your life. I have done it for, most of my adult life. The last going on 6 years, I've been working for myself, and it has its challenges as well. But that's the way I prefer, even if I have to do some things that I don't want to do, all legal, nothing illegal, I prefer to work for myself. And so, look for other earning opportunities, other side hustles, other ways to have a business so that you can leverage the tax system. And then the last line item for the overall health of everything is to really just learn about finance, learn about the tax system, learn about investing. Learn about finances and all the different things involved, banking, investing, paying bills, utilizing your money in the best way, different tax strategies on how you can evolve and grow your position, and learning about the tax system. Like the tax system is something we never should stop learning about. We definitely should be investing time and looking for ways how we can leverage the tax system to best reduce our tax liability. And one of the best ways to do that is by having a business. So even if you work, You can still have like a side business, some type of business where you can leverage, write-offs and things like that based off of having a home office or, mileage driving, or different expenses that you might need for things that you already need as well. Computers, different equipment, cameras. If you're a creator, there's different things that you can use to utilize the tax system. And so it's really important that we get a hold of our financial health. And I really, really implore you to, get this budget together and really start looking at your life so that we as a community can grow and elevate and evolve, and then take our power and use that to make changes where we want to make changes and contribute to our communities. So much love to y'all. It's peace and respect always. It's the How, and I'm out.